As you know, the COVID-19 pandemic has hit Malaysia's economy, and I will discuss according to fiscal policy and monetary policy. Fiscal policy is the use of the federal budget to achieve the macroeconomic objective of high and sustained economic growth and full employment. Fiscal policy includes the aspect of government budget, effects of the supply sides, and also the fiscal stimulus used by the government on the economy. Statement of outlays refers as the transfer payment, expenditure, and the debt interest of the government undertakes, while the revenue refers to personal income taxes, indirect taxes, and the investment income. When the revenue minus the outlays, it equals to the budget balance. The positive budget balance means the budget surplus as the government earned more money than it spent. The negative will be referred to as the budget deficit. The fiscal policy is the federal budget to achieve macroeconomic objectives such as sustained economic growth. As referred to the government fiscal policy at Malaysia Economic Monitor June 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, Malaysia's economy is projected to contract by 3.1%. The growth has slowed to 0.7% with efforts to flatten the curve of the pandemic through the movement control orders. MCO uncertainty regarding growth prospects has severely constrained the economic activities. 5 side effects are the effect of the fiscal policy on the potential GDP. It operates more slowly than the demand side effect. Changes in the taxes drastically affect the real GDP and employment. It's often ignored in times of recessions when the focus on fiscal stimulus and restoring full employment. In the long run, the side effects of the fiscal policy dominate and determine the potential GDP. With the effect of personal income tax changes the potential of GDP and the aggregate supply. This changed the full employment quality level to lower point of real GDP. As they paying taxes more, their incentive to work decreased, which left the shift of the labor supply curve. The consequence of the reduction in supply is an increase in the nominal wages. As the nominal wages has increased, firms hire fewer workers. As referred in the taxes effect, Malaysian individual taxes on personal income, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected a qualified person defined who is also known as knowledgeable worker residing in Iskandar, Malaysia, is taxed at the rate of 15% on income from an employment with a designed company engaged in the quality activities in that specific regions. Approved residents individual under the returning expert program having or exercising the employment with the person in Malaysia would have enjoyed a tax rate of 15% for 5 years on income from an employment. The objectives of monetary policy are ultimately political. The objectives are set out in the mandate of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, which defined by the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 and its subsequent amendment. The objectives have two distinct parts, which is the statement of goals and the prescriptions of the means by which to pursue them. Central bank controls Q money and interest rate. Also, the inflation rate targeting uses a core CPI. Advantages is fewer surprise to the traders and better allocations of resources, while the disadvantages is it only focuses on the inflations and the consequences. Exports could also suffer when this strategy is being used because the impact monetary policy has on the foreign exchange market. As referred to the monetary policy statement in Bank Negara Malaysia during the COVID-19 pandemic 2020, the Monetary Policy Committees of Bank Negara Malaysia decided to maintain the overnight policy rate at 1.75%. For Malaysia, the introduction of targeted measures to contain the COVID-19 in several states could affect the momentum of the recovery in the third quarter. Nonetheless, growth of the year 2020 is expected to be within the earlier forecasted range. For 2021, economic activity is projected to improve further. This will be underpinned by the recovery in global demand, turnaround in public and private sector expenditure amid continued support from policy measures and higher production from existing and new facilities. Nevertheless, the pace of the recovery will be uneven across sectors, with economic activity in some industries remain below pre-pandemic levels and a slower improvement in the labor market. And downside risks to the outlook remained, stemming mainly from ongoing uncertainties surrounding the pandemic globally and domestically. As the monetary policy effects, how do we lowering the overnight loans rate? The central bank first set a new target, the one that is lower than the current one, and the central bank conduct an open market operations and buy securities from commercial banks. This put downward pressures on the overnight loan rate. When the overnight loan rate falls, the other interest rate and the foreign exchange rate falls, and then the supply of loanable fund increases, so does the quality of money in the economy. It follows by the falls in the long-term real interest rate. Then it increases in consumptions, investment, and as well as net exports. Therefore, it causes the aggregate demand to increase. The result will increase in the real GDP and inflationary pressure. In a nutshell, if the central bank conducts expansionary monetary policy, which will lower the interest rate, the real GDP growth occurs. However, when the central bank decides to raise the overnight loan rate, the opposite process will occur. As referred to the overnight loans effect during the COVID-19 and bank road to the recovery, the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively impacted almost all the sectors, as the pandemic continues to wreak havoc on the economic, and with the country in the third movement control order, the banking industry needs to continue to adapt and change. However, it remains to be seen how soon will recovery begin and to what extent recovery of profitable to pre-pandemic times can be achieved, with the overnight policy rate or PR remaining at the 1.75% since July last year. Interest income remains compressed as banks continue to take measures to comply with the Bank Negara Malaysia call to assist borrowers based on their specific financial circumstances, even after the expiry of the previous moratorium.